Hello, and welcome back to Copilot Learning Hub. Today, we have an awesome episode for all of you devs out there and aspiring developers. We have a fantastic set of tools that I am so excited to share with you, and the best person who's going to come and teach us is our good friend, Anthony Bartolo. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Donna. It's awesome to be here.
All right, Anthony, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So, as you said, Anthony Bartolo, I am a Microsoft developer advocate, specifically concentrating around developer tools and how do we take people's ideas and make them real through Microsoft's AI and cloud services.
Now, you've been in the dev space for a very long time, as have I. We've had intense conversations about how can we speed up the developer's journey so they can get to the hard problems rather than fixating on the same problems we've had for 20-something years. I hear you've got a pretty cool suite of tools to share with us today.
Oh yeah, the whole advent of AI has really pushed the envelope in terms of the way that we can implement ideas into the cloud and into people's hands to accomplish what they need to accomplish. The one thing to keep in consideration is AI is a co-pilot. It enables you, it pushes you forward. It doesn't replace you. It allows you to take on tasks that predominantly you would search on Bing how to do the next thing. It provides you the insight in terms of what next steps would be. But in no certain case is it the lead or the actual developer. It's always going to follow by your instructions. And so that's what we're going to show today, specifically inside of Visual Studio Code, utilizing GitHub Copilot.
Okay, this I'm dying to see because I know how to use GitHub Copilot in VS, kind of. But I have a feeling you've got stuff to show us that brand new, hot off the presses, things that maybe none of us have seen. So please, tell us, enlighten us.
So let me share my screen. And we're going to go through a couple examples. Now, I've known Donna for a while. I know she is a serial entrepreneur, always looking at the best ways to create new things to excite people, which is awesome. I wish it was just as easy to do that in dev, but let me show you a quick example. And I'll assure you, I've seen this numerous times for individuals doing exactly this. So here's my Visual Studio Code IDE. As you can see here, I have GitHub Copilot chat onboarded. This is my chat window that's here. Here's where I would provide my instruction set in terms of, hey, what are we trying to accomplish? And what do you need me to do? And so let's go in here, and I'm going to put in something specifically for Donna. Build me an application that will be a bestseller on Marketplace and make me $1 million a month in revenue.
I love.
Can you imagine if it was that easy?
That would be incredible.
On next.
Okay, I want to know what happens though.
Sorry, I can't assist you with that.
Oh.
Why? We talked about this, right? Copilot is a copilot. It is not the pilot. You can't write the application for you. You have to come forward with the idea. You have to be able to provide it the ability to understand what are you trying to accomplish. When we're doing prompt engineering in any platform, you want to know, that your prompt is short, it is simple, and it is specific. Having something as general as build me an application and not providing instruction on what that application is makes no sense. And so the Copilot doesn't understand what that is. And so it comes up with a response. I'm sorry, I can't, assist with that. Let's say we take it a step further and say, build me an application. Let's be more specific in Python. That will be a bestseller in the marketplace. I'll click on that. And guess what? It's going to come up with the same thing saying, sorry, I can't assist with that. But look what it does provide. It provides an additional suggestion. What are some popular Python libraries for developing web applications? It's now trying to inquire of you, give me better next steps. Let me provide you with some suggestions of what we could talk about in the midst of building out this application. So it recognizes that you want to build an app in Python, still doesn't know what type of app you want to build, but it's going to try to give you ideas in terms of what you can do and what your next steps would be.
I like this a lot because it's actually trying to push you to prompt better.
So let's take it to the next step. So let's, we're going to build an app. We're going to build the next best game available, and it's going to be called tic-tac-toe, right? So let's go in and say, okay, build me a tic-tac-toe game in Python. So now it's going to go and yeah, sure. Here's a simple way to build a tic-tac-toe game in Python. Oh, so, and here's a great other thing that it's showcasing. Sorry, this response matched public code. It takes in consideration open source code. So if there's a scenario where, you are working on private code and you're asking Copilot to provide the information for you, it'll actually, if it's invoked by your organization, restrict you from using that publicly sourced code inside of your private code for this type of implementation. So let's close this for a second.
Hey, there's a security thing. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. See, I knew I'd learn some new things today. That's great. Yeah.
So let's start up a new file, right? And we'll start up a new file. We'll start up a Python file. And you know what? We don't even need this chat. I'm going to do right into the IDE window, the developer window. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to write the same command I did before. Build me a tic-tac-toe game in Python.
Oh.
So now I'm doing it directly into the programming window, and there you go. It's spitting out the game for me.
Oh, wow.
Now, you can see that it didn't block me this time in terms of the code. Why? Because this is a net new file. So prior to, it didn't know if it was adding it to a new file or not. And so to protect itself, sorry, you can't add that code to an existing or a private corporately owned code because it's open source, right? Now in this scenario here, I have this in my ID. This is a brand new code. I'm doing this as a hobby. I built a tic-tac-toe game. And you know what? So GitHub Copilot has made changes. I'm going to accept the changes. And here's my game. So I can go actually and run this.
That's very interesting how it wouldn't create it in an existing project because you don't have the right permissions to add open source code, but it will in a new one because you do have permissions to create something new. That's fantastic.
Correct, because you're creating something net new, right? And there's no policy attached to this file yet, right? There's no governance or security that's been implemented. Now I have this tic-tac-toe game. As you can see here, the output is in ASCII, and I didn't even give that specification. It did that on its own, guessing, hey, you know what? This is probably the best way to do this. Enter a position from 1 to 9, and you and I can actually play tic-tac-toe. So everybody goes for 5 to start. And it does the graphical representation in ASCII, in there, and it's a full-on game, right? So, and what's great about it too is that Copilot even went ahead and added its comments so that you can understand, okay, here's all the things that you need to know in terms of what, if you want to change anything, all the comments are there. What if the comments weren't there and you didn't know what that functionality did? You can actually go and select this, and we hit the Control-I again, and you hit the slash commands. And there's a bunch of slash commands, as you can see, that /docs, /explain, /tests. I'm going to go to /explain, and I'm going to get it to explain to me in the chat, what does that section of code actually do? This comes in handy when you're inheriting code that has no comments attached to it. Right. And so it goes through and it can actually provide you, hey, this is the Python code that builds out the board, right, for your game. There's a lot that's coming through there, as you can see, but you can read this in terms of what the formula is in terms of how the board is set up so that, hey, you know what? I don't want to do a 3x3 board. I want to make it harder. I want to do a 4x4 or 6x6 board. I want to make it more challenging. If you take it a step further, I want to remove the ASCII and I actually want to do graphical images and I want to have, graphical representation. These are all the things that you can do with this solution that Copilot could help you with. In past, you would use something like Bing to say, hey, how do I do this? Now, the challenge with that is it's disconnected, right? Because you're doing it in a browser, and then you would come back, copy and paste, and fingers crossed the code works. And most times it doesn't because it doesn't know the context of what you're building. Right. The power of Copilot in the fact that you're harnessing AI is it's understanding the code that you're building out, and it's taking that code and putting it into its knowledge base and say, okay, well, they're trying to build an application that's going to play tic-tac-toe. This is, they want to add on graphical representation now. So let's remove the ASCII board and let's help them build out the code to make it so it's much more visually appealing. The other aspect to this is testing, right? Donna, when you're building your applications, how often are you testing your apps, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I worked in accessibility for a while, and one of the biggest challenges was, how do you test this for accessibility? And it was always this humongous project, like go find these laws, generate these 10 test cases, run them, what's right, what's wrong. That is one area that I think is like grossly underserved, just the testing industry in general. And I have so much faith in GitHub Copilot being able to help with that.
So let's go jump into another scenario, and I'm going to do testing now.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping into what we call a code space.
Okay.
And I love these. These are developer containers. What's great about this is you can see it's loading up right now. It's used in the cloud.
Yeah.
So I don't have the IDE. I don't have VS Code on my machine. I do, but in this scenario here, I don't. I've been forwarded this code for this HTML site. That's JavaScript backend. And what's great about it is I have all my linters, my what coding we're using, my code spaces. Everything is loaded in here. It's accessible through the web, through my browser, and it looks like VS Code. It's almost identical. And so I can go in here and I can go and see, all my applications and make the changes as required. And this is interesting. What is this all about? Why is this asking for site prompts? And who is Alexandria and all this information? So let's go in here, and the same way we did before, in terms of asking, explain.
Oh, look at this.
It is identical to what you have inside of Visual Studio Code natively installed on your machine. It's now providing me the output in terms of, well, what is that piece in terms of what we're doing? Because it lacks documentation in terms of this application, right? I've seen this time and time again. I inherit this information. I inherit this code. I've been asked to modify. I don't know what the code does. So let's go in here now, and let's tell us what it is.
Okay, so this is the most common use case for all of us. We don't write code from scratch. We inherit code.
Correct.
And sometimes we inherit code written before we were born. Looking at you, Windows team, right? It's a real thing.
Oh, if you're a COBOL developer, you're probably retired right now.
Yeah.
I've heard of a hydro company out in Eastern Canada that is using Copilot to help with the development of the hydro machines. Generating the electricity, all built in COBOL, and they're using Copilot to help them advance the abilities of the machinery through that code set. So for future now, what I'm going to do is this. For the next person that looks at this code, we're going to automate the documentation on the code. Right. So this is a really cool tool too, as well. We're going to go through and automate the documentation on this code to say, well, okay, what does this mean? And so as you can see, it's telling me what the properties are being represented. So if I have to make changes in future, I know that, the name is the name of the site owner, the title is the title of the site owner, email contact, on and on and on, so that I know that I can go in and make those changes on the fly as required because the documentation exists and tells me that I can do that and provides me that information. The other aspect to that is, as we talked about, is the testing piece. So let's go in here and we'll select that, and we're going to say test.
What? You can just say test? I did not know that either.
And now it'll go through and it'll actually write the test code to render your image to test to make sure that the code works.
Okay, this is new. I was doing in the chat, give me 10 test cases, but this is so much better.
Well, let's go through all the slash commands that are available, right? So I can't show every single one in here. So we talked about slash explain. We've talked about slash tests. There's slash fix. How many times have you gone through looking for that semicolon that you forgot to put?
Yep.
And hey, I need to add it into my code. I need to find out where it is. You highlight the code that's causing the issue. You do slash fix, and it will provide you the suggestions in terms of where the code break is and what needs to be inserted.
Okay, that is cool.
If you are a Jupyter Notebooks developer and you're doing machine learning and calculations, what have you, you can set up a new notebook by slash new notebook, and it brings up the notebook specifically to address your data for the application that you're writing. Okay,
that is so cool for all of the folks who are now starting to get into machine learning, and they may come from different industries or different programming languages, and they're like, what is a Jupyter Notebook? And just getting people started with that, that's magical. I like that.
And so the benefit of this is, as I mentioned, right, it's a Copilot. It's not a pilot. It's there to help you. It's there to serve you. It's there to understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to develop. It does need the prompts to be short, simple, and specific. And I always add the fourth S, when in doubt, slash it out, the slash commands that are available to you in regards to simplifying what you're trying to accomplish. I love the fact that it knows all the code that you're producing, what the ideas and the structure of what you're trying to build, and provides you the suggestions specific to what you're trying to accomplish. Again, so many people go to search engines like Bing and try to, copy and paste what they find, and they find it doesn't work. and they have to do a whole bunch of investigation work in terms of how to correct that. This being embedded into your IDE, specifically Visual Studio Code, it is that, forcing factor to really understand what you're trying to accomplish and to provide you the best suggestions to finish the project that you're trying to complete.
I think this is just amazing, Anthony. Thank you so much for being here with us and showing us these incredible tricks.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. All right, folks, stay tuned for another episode of Copilot Learning Hub.